Hello, Insta. How to keep calm when you feel triggered. What a very, very relevant topic for us to discuss today. So, I want to start by sharing a story with you. Now, we all learnt to crawl, right? So we've got these neural pathways in our brains that have hey Holly, that have the pathway for crawling. And then we learned to walk, right? So we have this neural pathway for walking. Now, not often is it that we need to crawl, but we still know how to crawl. We still have these neural pathways that enable us to crawl. So I wonder if you notice that sometimes when you get triggered, it is because of this old this neurology, kind of like this crawling concept of something happens in our life. And while we know we can walk, we sometimes will default to crawling because that's like a primitive kind of neural pathway. So, how cool would it be if we actually looked at our circumstances when we're actually triggered and thought to ourselves, instead of crawling here, I'm going to decide to walk. Now, the key with this, before I get into the nuts and bolts of it, is really to look at, okay, how long am I down crawling for? Or how long am I actually down in the pit for? Because there is stuff that is triggering us left, right, and center in our current circumstances. There's always things that will trigger us, and it will often trigger that old neurology that's fired, that maybe has been asleep, and then something will happen and it'll fire it. So it's always going to happen, right? So the real key is to notice it and to get out of the pit or get up and walk a lot quicker. So I notice now that when I'm in the pit, when I'm in the old thought patterns and I've been triggered by something, I can now get out of the pit in a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes. It's so much easier. Whereas previously I might have stayed there for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. So first of all, congratulate yourself on that, for noticing first and foremost, and for reducing your time where you're in the pit or you're back crawling. So that's my little story to kind of caveat, I suppose, on today's topic, how to keep calm when you are triggered. Now, I once learned that external behavior creates an internal response, which then creates an external behavior. So let's use another story to demonstrate this, because this is a lot of like neuro-linguistic programming stuff that I've been trained in. So imagine that someone has a go at you because of a choice that you decided to make based on your values. They are actually exhibiting an external behavior to you. So here you are doing your own merry thing, and someone comes and this external behavior and says, why are you doing that? Da, 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 da. So you then have an internal response. Over here, you've got an internal response. You actually get to choose this internal response, but maybe it's triggered something and you feel judged or criticized or upset or really angry. So then they actually create an internal behavior in you if you allow. Well, you will create an external behavior, depending on, you get to choose basically. So they've come in, they've had an external behavior, it's created an internal response in you, you felt something in your body, and then you then get to decide to do the external behavior to them. Now, this is where the choice comes in. This is where we get to choose our external behavior back to them. Do you yell? Do you get angry? Do you get judgmental? Do you storm off? Do you swear? This situation is only going to escalate, right? And the way that conflict arises in our relationships. So the only thing that we can control is our response. Maybe this is just validation for you today, this Wellness Wednesday. Maybe there's some new information in here for you, but what I really want to encourage you to do is start to consider, okay, where in my life am I being triggered? And how can I apply this external behavior, internal response, and then my external behavior? How can I really tune into that? Because the reality is, TV is always going to have crap. Social media is always potentially going to trigger you. Politics will often have crap. Current circumstances may potentially trigger you. So many people are being triggered right now, guys. And that can mean that we're actually lashing out at loved ones when we don't actually mean to, because this internal response can happen in the click of just a millisecond. And then that reaction, that external behavior that we then show back, can happen just as quick as well. So sometimes it's just about stopping and taking that time and realizing that we've been triggered, that we're playing that old neurology, and noticing. So people are feeling hurt. They're feeling frustrated, and people are often feeling hurt and frustrated because there's something within them that has been triggered because that hasn't been healed, or it's old neurology, that something's happened in the past and we've dealt with it a certain way. So when someone or something presents in your life and you find that you're not agreeing with their external behavior or their energy or their thinking or their language or their tone or any other experience that you notice that you may potentially have an external behavior, that you may potentially have an unfavorable internal response, remember, the map is not the territory. If you recognize this from now on, you recognize that this internal response is disempowering you. It was. Now you can start to think a more empowering internal response. So you may have that initial thing come up, but you can actually say, okay, I noticed this. Interesting map. Instead of jumping off the handle, instead of judging back, fighting back, having that external behavior, what if you just changed your internal response? You may get triggered at first, you may have the emotions come up, but then change your internal response to be like, interesting map. So food for thought, guys. See how that goes. Notice over the coming days, like, is there an external behavior around you? I spoke to my coach today and it was such timely as always. And I was saying about all of this stuff that was happening around us. And she said, yeah, the key is it is happening around you, not to you. There may be stuff that is going on in our personal lives. Yes, we have the tools to deal with that. However, there is stuff happening around us, not to us, around us. The current circumstances, family, friends, all of those things are not, they're happening around us, not happening to us. So that's a real key to remember. So notice that this external behavior is happening around you, not to you, but it's causing an internal response because of old neurology or old wounds or triggers that are coming up. You have that internal response. At the start, it might go, oh, in your gut. That's where I feel it. It's like, oh, this feels really yucky. However, I can then turn back and judge and get angry and frustrated and just show a really unresourceful external behavior. Or I can tune in, think to myself, interesting map, and just get really curious on where they may have picked up that map from. So there you have it, guys. I hope that that's been helpful with the current climate. I mean, it's life. Relationships are our biggest lessons in our life. They throw up everything that we need to heal. And so just notice that external behavior. What's my internal response? How can I choose differently to have a different external behavior that's going to be more favorable? Always remembering things are happening around you, not to you in most circumstances, unless it is personal. And remember to say to yourself, interesting map, whether it's a friend, whether it's a colleague, whether it is the media, whether it is socials, just think to yourself, interesting map. So let me know your thoughts below, and let's talk about how we can apply this in the next week to our lives. And let me know of success stories that you have with this and how things might change for you and how much more quickly you might notice yourself getting out of the pit. Enjoy your week. I will see you all next week for another Wellness Wednesday, and stay safe. Mwah. Lots of love.